Welcome everyone to Writernaama and to its one of its kind session and very first session, which is completely passion driven, heart driven. The moment it came to me, it was just on instinct. So, and something on instinct is my personal favorite also, and it is driven by that. Before we move forward, I'm just launching a poll for all of you guys. So you will be seeing two questions in a minute. And yes, so you can start polling and we'll wait for a minute or two and then we'll move forward. So the very first thing I want to ask you all is what brings you to this session? You're a writer, you want to write a book, finish a book, I'm a content writer, or maybe you're just curious. And also, this next one is where do you learn the art of writing from? By following the authors on social media, or by following the influencers on social media, or maybe pre-recorded courses, live with coaches, books, or writing cannot be learned. Also, I heard from many people, so I kept that as also one of the options. Okay, 50%. Okay, 33% people are like just curious. Awesome. Okay, so I am launching the results here. So as you can see, 25% people say I'm a writer, 25% people say I'm a content writer, and 50% people are just curious. Okay, and the second one, interesting, live with coaches and books. Wonderful, very interesting. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much, Anusha. Thank you for polling, for voting this. Those who have joined new can just type in the chat box that what brings you here to the session, whether you are a writer, you want to complete a book, or you want to write a book, you're a content writer, or are you just curious? Or second is, where do you learn the art of writing from? Is it by following people on social media or pre-recorded courses, live with coaches, or through the books?
हाँ कौन है?
Farina, I'm keeping on you on mute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's absolutely all right. Okay. So with that, let's do an activity before I introduce. This time I'm doing this because most of my sessions, my signature style I know is interactive. So let it be an interactive introduction. Okay. So I'm throwing the ball in your court, guys, and I want all your answers in the chat box. First question is, what do you do? And second is, who are you? And we'll dig down deeper from there. So what do you do and who are you? Suppose if you are like multiple things, multiple roles at work or professional life, just separate that by comma. So question one, what do you do and who are you? Please type your answers in the chat box. It's going to be a bit psychological fun. Hopefully I am audible because no answers are there.
Yes, Heena, you're audible. And as you mentioned, write down everything in the chat, work in progress.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Anusha. So what do you do and who are you? Two questions are there. So type your answers in the chat box. So if you are many things like, somebody's coach and a mother also, that you want to mention both, you can separate that by comma and type your answer. If you want to have just, I'm just a coach, so that's also fine. Just example, coach, writer. Okay. So I didn't, so just one more clarification, Anusha. Naam to already is visible, name is visible. What do you do and who are you? So who are you has to be what identity you relate to. So as you say that you are a life coach, that itself is one part of identity. Apart from that, if anything else is clicking, yeah. So Shweta is Zumba education specialist, mindful advocate, and the same things she does also. Okay. Professional trainer and speaker. Okay, I'm waiting for a few more answers before I spill the beans about this beautiful insight. Farina says school administrator, education counselor, mother of two, writer, and mother. Wow. Interesting. So double writer and mother. Wow, very interesting. Okay, Charmila, that's a very interesting one. I guess the writer was typed double time, or if not, if it is intentional, then I would request you to unmute and also reveal this secret. Bhairavi says, I'm into content writing from past 2 years, currently freelancing in creative writing and content writing, editing, and book reviews. Okay. Thank you so much for your answers. My next question before, again, I will introduce myself, would be, what's the most important game changer for you to become a better writer, content writer, better in writing, or maybe good writing, best-selling writer, whatever you are thinking about, but related to writing. Okay, Anusha says,
Heena, can you repeat your question? I'm sorry, it was not clear to me. Thanks.
Yeah, Shweta. So what's the most important game changer for you to become a better writer? That writer may be a book writer, that writer may be a social media writer, that writer may be also a coach because they also write. So generic.
Got it.
Okay, Anusha says she's a life coach, NLP practitioner, Reiki healer, daughter, wife, reader. Wow, wonderful. Game changer means something which really you think is that if this thing is in me, then I can become a better writer. Or if this thing is already in me and that is why I am a better writer, whatever. So what is that thing for you? One workshop which Bhairavi did changed her game of writing. Very interesting. I would love to know what that was, maybe in the chat box. What is it that makes you a better writer? And there's no wrong or right answer. It all comes from experience. So if you're hesitating before typing, it's I would love to see all the experiences. Wow, so sweet, positive comments from you. Then definitely you are getting better every day. Just ping me every day with one liner. I'll give you positive comments. Okay, Anusha says, I'm not sure what's the game changer, but I think it could be storytelling, better sentences, structure in writing, in the way that can move people emotionally. Consistency and discipline would be a game changer. Okay. Showing up as much as I can. Okay. Okay. The course included creative writing and content writing both. Okay. Okay, Bhairav. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Now go back to your replies where I asked all of you, who are you and what do you do? What do you do or who are you? The most important game changer, all of these are game changers according to you, but what I have experienced over the years, or I would say, more than a decade, it has been since I'm into creative writing, have written 4 books. There's one thing, when you introduce yourself, 2 of you whom I know personally also have been into my coaching also. Despite writing the books, you haven't mentioned I'm a writer. And that's where the game changes. And the same thing happened with me. Just because I changed my introduction verbally also, and on social media, it's okay, because social media, don't go to your bio every day and see that, oh, I'm a writer. But when people ask you, if who are you and what do you do, if that writer, maybe a content writer, if that's not coming on your identity, then neither consistency will come, nothing of these will come. Because till the time you don't believe you're a writer, till the time you don't believe that my stories are worth sharing, rest all will always have some or the other blockages. You will be, falling down, getting up, falling down, getting up, but there would be a huge love-hate relationship with writing. And that's what even I experienced, because when I was writing my 5th book previous year, and those who have attended my previous workshops and have been with me previous year, they know very well that I stopped writing that book after writing 13 chapters of that novel. Despite being an international book coach, making 20 plus people write their books also, I stopped because I somewhere wasn't satisfied, first of all, that something is not clicking. And Second thing was that, I had taken it as a challenge that if I have done it before, every book I had written the very first draft within 1 month, this also has to be that way. And since I had stopped in between, somewhere it came on my identity, that what kind of book coach you are, that if you yourself are not able to maintain that, what you have maintained so far in your legacy. So it started coming into that. So my actions got associated with identity, and the opposite also in the positive cases. When I was doing that, within 1 month, when I was completing my draft, I went back and checked what really worked there and what is not working here. And I found this difference, that time I had a very firm belief that whatever I'm doing, it's worth it. Although I was not a coach till my 3 books came into the scene, although I was not teaching anything, although I was not even having a single client because I was just an author. But because that belief of identity was so deeply imbibed, maybe because, I've been, the reasons might be different, but it's about what we choose to pick up as our identity. We all have been writing. I'm very sure none of you will say that I'm not writing just because you're not writing a book. You're writing on social media, writing emails, you're writing WhatsApp replies. What if when you come from that identity of a writer, that reflects in these tiny things also. So be it consistency or discipline, be it showing up as much as you can. But if there is a belief in your head that my stories are not worth sharing, who will read my stories? Will any of this can be maintained? You can be consistent for 7 days, you can be consistent for a book because maybe you have a coach. But what after the coach is not there? Till the time that belief is not imbibed, till the time that identity is not imbibed in your introductions, which I never used to do. And the moment I started doing, one after the other, the book started rolling out. Earlier, I never used to introduce myself as a writer. Whenever somebody used to ask me, who are, like, what do you do? And I used to say, nothing, I just, write some tiny, tiny poems at home. And I teach a bunch of people at home who I help to write. I could not say that I have published 3 books. I have written them and I'm a book coach. Reasons were very different because, I was a mother, I had a special child. I had this belief that if I say that I'm working from home, despite having a special child, I'll be judged. So I was staying away from those judgments. And later on, when I understood this and I changed my narrative, rest all things started changing. And it took me very few, or I would say a lesser number of time to reach where I am right now, just because that I started changing the way I used to see myself. So next time, please, especially those who are doing coaching with me, include writer in your verbal plus written introductions. It starts from there. And the magic starts from there, because till the time that's not in your head, you can't be a mother till the time you associate with that identity. You can't be a life coach if you don't mention it anywhere. Despite being a life coach, if there is a guilt behind regarding anything, you might have sacrificed something which you think is worth, or maybe you have left your family behind. And if you're coming from that belief and then hiding your identity about being a life coach or any other thing which you have mentioned here, would you be able to do any of these as game changer? So the whole soul
Hello.
secret of that is your identity. Are you bringing
Hello.
that? Yes.
And
What
class started.
Okay, I have muted her. Okay, so now, since I have already given a long sermon on that, and that is very important, because as and when I'm progressing with my clients, I'm realizing that all the case studies of those who could complete it on time, those who could not complete it on time, was only because there was a clash in identities. They were something else before they were a writer. And since those who could complete it on time or those who are doing it faster, it's just because, the moment when they were into the book writing or into any kind of, blog writings, brainstorming or anything, if they were faster, that was only because, they believed that, right now I'm a writer. Yeah, that's okay, Manjulata. Okay, so most of you know me, and I also know most of you. Still, I have taken a little bit of, I will take a little bit of time for my introduction. I'm Heena, I'm Shrivastava, and I am author of 4 books. And see, the author is coming very first as in my identity automatically. And I'm founder of Writernaama. I'm an international book coach, and rest all, even though my ICF, PCC credentials are even much more precious to many people, that why she hasn't mentioned that as first place, despite being internationally certified, or maybe, certified NLP trainer, or maybe, the TEDx speaker. But none of that comes before this identity for me. None of that. So time to revive this just by taking this tiny action. Start including writer in your identities. Introduce yourself as a writer. I guess this has started coming in those who have completed their books. Teji is there. So I just looked at her and it clicked to me that now I'm very sure, without asking her, that her earlier introductions versus current introductions, somewhere the author word flashes for sure. Teji, you can give a thumbs up or maybe, type in the chat box. If you can't unmute, that's absolutely fine. Okay.
So I can say that, Heena, it has changed. And in fact, the change which is happening is, yes, very true. Unless you believe in your story that, it would read, there would be readers to read it. It just doesn't happen. And I think I shared it with you also that my story was about gratitude, but put in a different way of, angels coming in your life to change your life. And how I conceived it, because I always felt they are really spirit angels guiding me and changing my life. And many people appreciated that, a thank you. You turned it to, spirit guides or angels coming to your life at the right moment. You know them very well, but at the right moment, they have an angelic spell on you that it changes your life. And now whenever I meet people, after some conversation, it comes out naturally. I've written my book. It comes out very naturally. It's on Amazon and all of this. So you need to have a very strong belief. Yes, there will be readers, and there will always be readers who will believe and not believe. So I think you have to take a statistical look at how many people read a book, how many would believe in your concept, how many would not believe in your concept. So the people who believe in your concept will be still thousands of people who are waiting for your book to, your concept. They will resonate with what you have, and that's what makes you keep writing.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, every book is made for some or the other reader. Just like somebody is made for somebody, books are also like soulmates. It's never like, okay, this book will not be read by anybody. Somebody is there to read that.
Absolutely.
Okay, and this has been proved by, thank you so much, Teji, for sharing also. This has been proved by one of the books which we had also covered up in our book club, which is Mind Reader. And when we were discussing this book in the book club, there was a very beautiful insight which came through this book, was that when a person is introducing themselves, the sequence of their roles tells a lot about what are they prioritizing. And equally, when they're talking about anybody, maybe say, for example, in their family, you will find a difference even when you're introducing your family members to, maybe if I introduce my family members here, maybe I say that, I have a special child, versus if I talk to Teji personally, who I'm now very close to, I will not say special child, I'll directly tell the name. So all these things, without even knowing the person, you can know that, how the person is associating with somebody, especially with their own identities. So what is their sequence of identities, which you can check, and you don't need to even ask them. And if somebody is not having writer at all in their identity, there are chances that somewhere there will be, and that's what author said, that there will be a struggle into that role. That would become a struggle because it's not your identity. So after that, it got me I connected a lot of dots with my own journey, with others' journey. Whoever had been successful was either already using that or started using it. Okay, now coming to the case study. How many of you have read the book after I shared it in the group? Many of you might not have read, but I'm just asking, maybe in case if anyone has. If not, then also I will talk about the book before we delve deeper. Okay, haven't read. Charmila has read. Okay, all right. So since Charmila has read, I would request you to unmute and talk about this book, not because I have picked it up, but your own views.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, then this is actually like an account of a boy who doesn't listen to his mother, but then he finds a way to look in like wear his mother's shoes and see in her viewpoint.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Before we begin, one question for all of you, and you may type your answers in the chat box, is how many of you, first of all, want to write a book? Ever, not necessarily now, ever in life thought of writing a book? Maybe somewhere down the line, I will write a book. Maybe after 10 years, 20 years, 5 years. Manjulata, Charmila. Charmila has already written a book. Yeah, Shweta. Coming soon, yeah. Heena. Wonderful. Okay. How many of you want to write a non-fiction book? Charmila wants to write. Okay. Manjulata wants to write. Shweta also wants to write. Okay. Cool. My next question is, those who are not interested in writing a non-fiction, what's your reason? Fiction in mind. Yeah. So question to you as well, Farina. What's the reason? Why not a non-fiction? Stories come easily. So does that mean that a fiction cannot be non-fiction cannot be fictionalized? So the whole session today is about that only. This book is exactly the same. When I delved deeper into that, I realized that it is actually a non-fiction, which has been fictionalized so well that it looks like a story. But there's a very deeper message in that. And there are, in fact, one deeper message and then parts of it there, as Charmila rightly mentioned, that this is actually about a boy having his relationship with his mother and not listening and how he ends up listening. But the whole thing is about having a difference in opinion with anybody. I would generalize it anybody, because you can apply the same thing everywhere and you will be able to relate that. So that's the beauty of the book. In fact, when I read the book, this is what came to my mind, and I've written these lines here, that difference about with anybody in your opinions. Somebody is on another page. So difference is not conflict, and conflict is not difference. Conflict arises on how we choose to deal with that difference. Whether we choose to disagree, agree to disagree, that's the whole game about. And this book has beautifully portrayed that if you have differences of opinion with anybody, not just with your mother, but with anybody, how do you deal with the differences rather than dealing with the person? And yeah, empathy. Yeah, exactly, Shweta. Understanding of being in someone else's shoes. So the book exactly does magic on your mindset with a conversation and a story, which completely changes this boy's mind. As Charmila rightly mentioned, that it's a story of a small boy. And there are lots and lots of graphics, by the way, beautiful ones. So I will keep on reading few lines from this also in between. So yes, the empathy part has been taken care of. If I look at it, that how the author has first of all thought about an idea, which is differences of opinions, how that can be dealt, and then thought about it on different levels. When it is differences of opinion, it's not just in actions where you need to work on. It's also in your belief. It's also in your empathy level, as I would maybe label it as mindset. So all these levels are taken care by just that conversation which is happening there. And I personally feel that's the best way to learn, because nobody is telling you what to do. Nobody is telling you should be doing that. Nobody is even exemplifying their own life, that see, this is what I have done and now you should do it too, or you can do it too. It is completely a different story. I mean, I would say third person story, which is written in a third-person perspective, and still you get a lot of insights. And that is why the book is very strong, because it's a rare combination. In fact, the similar book I would also talk about was The Boy, the Mole one, and I will also talk about the difference in that. So this was my reason to get hooked to this. It might not be a best-selling book, and even the further book studies or case studies which I'll be bringing up, they may or may not be a best-selling, but the way they will click to me, or the way I can bring up insight, would be the best way, I guess, I can talk about it, rather than just focusing on best-selling book. Because I personally believe that you can be best-selling anytime, but to become the best in your own version as a writer, that's what the real game is about. You can be best-selling author and still keep on doubting yourself. But when you think that I'm the best author, despite not having that best-selling tag, that's where the game changes. Okay, so let's start. Sorry for this blurry graphics. I could not get the good ones. And these are all copyrighted, so somehow I could get a few ones. So sorry for that. All right, so let's begin. The very first question, who has read the other book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse? I'm hoping at least few have read that. Yeah, Charmila has read that. Okay. So those who haven't read it, I would suggest read both, because then you'll see the difference in that. Although I will be telling you the difference here only, so sorry for being a spoil sport. How about others? Nobody has read The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse? Okay, all right. So again, both the similarity between both the books are definitely, these are premium sort of books. They're having this hardcover written by, international authors who have already been there, and then they have written the book. It's very nicely sketched and everything is there. Very less words, but huge impact, hugely impactful. Just you might see it as a, that might be just a comic book. What's important in that? But when you delve deeper, every single, The Boy, the Mole is something, I would say. Every page will be, making you gasp. Oh my God, why didn't I read it before? So one of the things, maybe, I can read some here. I haven't marked anything. Yeah, so one quote in that is, often the hardest person to forgive is yourself. And many other very deep quotes and conversations are there. So any which ways, that was the similarity. However, the major difference, since Charmila has read both the books, I would like to ask her opinion. Can she spot any difference between the two?
Yeah, I did find a lot of similarities between the books, because both are like very wise, very wisdom, and you can read with kids. And also they won't get the deeper thoughts and meanings, but you will get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the part of similarity. However, when it comes to differences, one thing stood out, which I could spot, was that when it comes to The Boy, the Mole book, it was more about characters were there, characters are even here in the book, but the conversation was very generic. It was about every single topic, forgiveness, it was
Yes.
courage, it was about everything. Whereas when I read the Into the Uncut Grass by Trevor Noah, it was about a particular single topic, and actually that made me pick up the book. When I opened the very first page, it openly talked about that this book is about conflict, especially about the conflict with my mother. And I could immediately connect, because the further lines were immediately clicking. And I guess maybe I can read the first few lines for you guys, so that that click, I could immediately connect that, everybody would be able to connect that. So just few lines. This book was inspired by a conflict, especially the never-ending war between me and my mother. When I was young, my mother and I used to spend a lot of time in a state of debate. As much as I wanted to respect her wishes, I always had my own plans in my tiny little head. Her wishes and my plans were rarely the same. She would tell me to tie my shoelaces. I would argue that the knots made it harder to get my shoes off. She would demand that I clean my room. I would insist that it looked better in chaos. My mother would ask me to mow the lawn, and I would reply with a comprehensive list of all the reasons the grass looked better, tall, and uncut. Round and round we go in a funny dance. She would throw out a rule, I would find a loophole and jump through it. But when all the loopholes were closed and justice was closing in, I would switch tactics. Instead of arguing, I would find the closest open door and run. And that hit me hard because we developed coping mechanism after that. So that was very deep, but the part which really connected was the differences of opinion. So this is the difference between the two books which I could find out. However, I would suggest you guys to whichever walk you hail from, you may be coach, you may be working 9 to 5, both the books will be connecting with you. Okay, so this is what we are going to do today. We'll be delving deeper into plot points. Although it is a non-fiction, we'll see how it has been converted into a fiction. We will see protagonist and plot. We will see what I have learned, and you can add up to that. We will see some unlearnings also. And I have come up with my own self-made framework through which you can do the same with, if you want to write a tiny mini book, maybe you can grab that framework and, give it a shot. Okay, so we'll practice that a bit also. Okay, so ready for that? Okay, very first one is, many of you are already aware about fictions. So exposition, I would still summarize that. Anyone wants to drop in the chat box what exposition is about? So there are 5 phases, or I would say there are different plot points. Or in more simpler way, a story is divided into different parts. Whether it is a film story, whether it is a novel, whether it is a short story also. The basic part is starting, middle, and end. Yeah. And then there are further structures which many bigwigs of writing have developed over a period of time. There is 7 plot point, there is 16 beat sheet, there is 5 plot point structure, and there is hero's journey, and there are many more. Now I go with the easiest one, or I would say the simplest one, which is 5 plot point. So every story we can divide into 5 plot points. First is exposition. As Sharmila has rightly mentioned, exposition is the status quo before the action happens. Yeah. I would also like to add up to this is exposition, as the name itself suggests, you get exposed to something. Introduction. So any story, if you click, you can pick up your own examples, pick up Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge, or any favorite movie of yours. There's an introduction of characters. There's an introduction of location. There's sometimes the introduction of a particular character, sometimes a particular family, sometimes a particular setup, sometimes a particular room, sometimes a particular habit, whatever the author wants to shed the light on. So it starts from exposition where, the character's background, maybe the family or the character's habit, traits, quirks, idiosyncrasies, all these things are spotlighted so that you connect with them. Before, without exposition, if I directly would have started, it is a story about managing conflicts, managing differences. But the boy who doesn't connect with his mother, and just because, there are very cute reasons from his side that, my mother wants me to make bed and I don't like making the bed. And so cute stuffs like that. But yes, that can be connected with bigger differences also. And exposition brings that connection with the reader. So that is the first part. Second is rising action. Rising action is, again, when the main twist happens, when the main problem happens. No story happens without a problem, without a twist, without a climax, where something happens, somebody got kidnapped, somebody got maybe murdered, somebody left home, or such things. So now you can connect the dots with any movie, any novel, favorite of yours. There was something with some twist which happened in that character's life, which made them feel challenged, or which shook their life, which created an upheaval in their life. And just before that, there are some actions which happen. Say, for example, if there is a story about a thief robbing the bank. Now, the exposition would be maybe about, it may start from the thief's childhood. The author wants to focus on that. That's also okay. Author may choose to focus on directly at the place where the main protagonist of the story, the thief, started turning into a thief. or maybe, is having the guilt of first time committing a tiny crime. It may start from there also. And then the rising action will be the series of events which will finally make him do the robbery. He was not born as a robber, but what all happened in his life that he became that. And it's applicable to our lives also, whether it is a good thing or a bad thing, whatever we have become, there was a rising action before that. So what were those incidents? So that is rising action. Next is our climax, or we can say the twist in the story, the main problem or the main challenge of the story, where now there is this, if I say in Hindi, talwar latak gayi, what to do? So the climax is that part of the story. Falling action is now when the character has into the problem, has started facing the challenge. And when we are facing the challenge, some changes come in our personality and we somewhere get resolved. There's something which gets resolved if we are facing it positively, if we are facing it negatively. Say, for example, Sanju movie, the climax can be his father's death. But the falling action there was not a solution. He did not improvise after his father's death. He went the other arc way. He went the negative way. He became even worse. So the falling action can be positive or negative, doesn't matter, but there would be a progress in that. I would not say resolution because it's not always a solution. It might be a complication also. You may decide to keep your character, make your character more worse. Generally, in cute stories, happy endings, falling actions are positive, just like in this story also. And then the resolution, either the story ends on a good note, happy note, or ends on a bad note, sad note, or maybe a questioning note. Sometimes a cliffhanger that to be continued in the series. So that's the basic division of plot points. Now coming to the book and talking about plot points, the best part about this book is it has already been divided into parts. Like part 1 is when the boy gets up and he has a teddy with him and he talks with the teddy that let's go out today, Saturday. And the teddy is not ready to get up, and then how he convinces him and how he's excited about Saturday, what all he's looking forward for Saturday, and how he doesn't want to make the bed on Saturday. And when the teddy finally sighs and gets up, he says that, you have to do that because, your mother wants you to do that. And so we start connecting there. And the exposition and rising action has happened in the very first part. So the parts are already divided, part 1, part 2, and part 3. So those two parts, the exposition and rising action, have been taken care in the very first part, where the boy has a conversation. Then the boy doesn't listen to the teddy and they finally venture out. So venturing out is where they leave the home and they want to go outside their home, cross the boundaries and go to the uncut grass, which is on the other side, maybe a forest or something like that. So now the venturing part, the trying to open the iron gate part and all that is rising action. When they finally reach there, the adventure begins, which is the climax of the second part. And there he meets different kind of animals. One of them is snails. Other one is, there's one more animal, I forgot. But both the animals, there are two animals, two snails and two other sort of animals. They're having their own sort of differences of opinion. So when he goes to the snails, he sees that one of the snail wants to go to right and the other wants to go to left. And they keep on first telling about, right is good because of this, and the other one says left is good because of that. And immediately then both of them change way and says, okay, I will go your way and you go my way. And the boy is perplexed that when you were wanting to go to that way, why did you choose his way and why did you also do the same? And they say that that's our strategy. Whenever we are having a difference, we choose to explore each other's ways rather than, judging each other that your way is right or my way is right and all that. And that gives us a lot of new learnings and insights. And the dialogues are really powerful. So I will read those dialogues in between to you guys, that this is how the author has really created the kind of impact which could have been there, or which is very beautifully mentioned. So yeah, so the boy asks the snails that why you are going that way, this way, and the snails said that we go that way why? So they answer that when we can't agree, we don't argue forever. She just does it my way and I do it, and she just does it my way. I mean, both do each other's way. But if you think that you are right, the boys asked, why bother doing it the other way? And then the snails answer that because everyone thinks they are right until they discover they are wrong. And that was very impactful. So the dialogues are very short, but they're very impactful. Yeah. Coins, I could not understand. Coins, okay, they made the coins. Yeah, Charmila, thank you for reminding me. Yeah. So the next people they meet is a set of coins who were singing a song about flipping the coin, that tossing the coin in the air, and they were saying that we'll decide with that. And the boy again goes and asks them that, and it is all the part of climax and falling action, where the action is now finally the realization of understanding his mother is settling in, because he's understanding that, okay, somebody can have different perspective and how we can be still kind towards that person. And then when he goes to the coins and he sees that, a certain set of coin wanted to do party, certain set of coin wanted to have ice cream, and certain set of coin wanted to do something else. But as the coin was flipped in the air and tossed in the air, the whatever came, they all accepted. And then again, he asks them that, how come you can do that? And that sounds fun, but does anyone get mad when they don't get their way? And the coin, one of the smaller coin replies that you can't get mad at luck, right? And then they talk a little bit about arguments, that we have gone everywhere and we have seen that one person wants to do this and one person wants to do that. And it is all actually non-fiction part, but has been fictionalized. One person wants to do this, one person wants to do that. Friends argue with each other, but for what? And so we decided that we would rather compromise, and we will, after all, we are all coins. So let's toss ourselves in the air and see what comes up. And the boy had a follow-up question. What if you follow the coin flip and things go wrong? And the coin answered, well, that's the beauty of life. Sometimes you make the right choice and things go wrong. And sometimes you make the wrong choice and things go right. And again, there is not too much stretching in these things. There was another addition to this, was there are two sides of every coin. The teddy bear, the Walter said, the teddy bear's name is Walter. And he added, and the third side, the smaller coin said, the edges, everyone forget the edges. So we are always about, there are two sides of the coin, but the edge is what joins them together. So that was said very beautifully in this. And it's actually a very beautifully concocted plot point. I could find all the plot points over there, where it started from exposition, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. So a non-fiction idea of how to handle differences of opinion has been beautifully woven into 5 plot points, and you can look at it with other dissections also. Somebody wants to have a 16 beat sheet plot points, you can feel free to do that. And in fact, I would be happy if something doesn't click, or even if something clicks and you share that with me, that would be a wonderful exercise for us as a writer. Next comes the protagonist versus plot. Now, before we move, okay, wait, I haven't shared this screen. Yeah. So before we move forward, I would like to ask all of you, and you may type your answers in the chat box. What is more important, the character or the story? What is more important? I won't ask what comes first, character or story, because that would be just like asking ke anda pehle aaya ya murgi. So, okay, Charmila says character, as the character drives the plot. Okay. Anusha says both. Okay. Tapaswini says both. Shankar sir says character. Okay. All right. So those who are saying character, can one of them unmute? Okay. Charmila has answered character drives the plot. How? If you would like to answer. Those who have answered character can unmute and share their views.
Yeah, because when the character and the character flaws is what drives the plots, right? We can change the plot according to that. But if you choose the plot first, then you don't know how to go to with the character.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, Shweta?
Yeah, Hina, mainly when it's character, even though, it's more like a metaphor. And I know there are a lot of, end or byproducts that we are trying to understand as you were reading the story. But I think mainly everything goes around the character. So, yes, that has been the hero of the story. And it's all about the character's feelings and what he feels and what he does not feel and how he's talking to the teddy bear. And I think everything is around the character.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, actually, so just to understand this better, thank you, Shweta, for sharing that. Just to understand this better, because many of us have replied both also. So it's just for that clarification that there is for the situation which we will crack and understand. So let's say, for example, uh, you and your best friend, or maybe not a best friend, somebody else, unknown person. There are two people. One of them is you, and both of you work in a good company. Both of you live in a same society. Both of you have a habit and same timings of going to the office. Maybe it's the same building and office. So all facilities same, setup same, the timings of work same. The maybe designation also same. So there is no disparity in where you are already frustrated, but both of you are at very similar thing. Family setup also supportive, everything is same, whether supportive or not, but it is same. And one fine day, and you are but only difference is that you are a coffee lover, and or maybe you are a tea lover and the other person is coffee lover. Now you both have a habit of going to a cafe and having your respective tea and coffee before you head out to your work. And one fine day, when you go to the cafe, you realized that the person who loves the coffee has been served coffee. But since chai patti khatam ho gaya tha, they are apologizing and they are saying that please accept our coffee today instead of the tea. Now, what would be your reaction? What would you feel? Type in the chat box. You may have different answers. That's completely fine. But what would you feel? Okay, Charmila will feel annoyed. I was audible to others also, right? What would you feel, or what would be your reaction? Initially disappointed, then acceptance. Okay. I can taste coffee for a day. Interesting, Tapaswini. I will be fine. Okay. Now, as we notice, the story is same, but how each character is responding, as Shweta also rightly mentioned. The story where a character named Anusha is initially disappointed, then acceptance, would be very different from a story where Charmila's character is annoyed. It would take a different turn. Every plot point would be different according to their reactions, according to their feelings, because whatever they are feeling, they will act accordingly. And whatever they are acting will take the story further. So the story is same. There are two characters, but if those characters are having different feelings, experiencing the same thing differently, then the whole story changes. So that's why it's not like the character matters more, but yes, character is at the driver's seat of any story. You change characters one flaw, you change characters one part, one side, just replace maybe Harry Potter's one trait and see how story change. Maybe Harry Potter was not a very friendly person. Would he have been friends with Ron and Hermione? Or maybe let's take Hindi movies example. Let's take Three Idiots. What if Ranchod Das was a crying baby? Would the story be same? Would he take up the life the way he had taken in the story after that? So every character, how they are experiencing the situation, you can play around that and the whole story would change. In this story where we are doing the case study, if the boy if his teddy used to ask him a lot of questions. So apart from these two simple conversations which he had with snails and coins, there was a lot of conversation in forms of simple assertive arguments, not a very unhealthy ones. Very just like when we say to the friends, "Na mujhe coffee achhi lagti nahi, mujhe nahi achhi lagti yaar, mujhe kuch ye acha lagta hai because of that." But we never mind. So such sort of conversations where everywhere, say for example, the boy said that when this stubborn gate will open, and his friend Teddy says that maybe it's not the gate but you who is stubborn, and such kind of things are there. What if the Teddy, who is giving him insights every now and then, was a people pleaser? He would not have, and the story would have taken a different turn. Maybe the author would have done justice to the same story, to the same message, in a fictionalized way, but the story would completely change. If a character is same and if situation changes, again that depends on the character. Situation can change. You can put the same character, the character who is going to the coffee shop daily, to some other situation. But if a character has a habit of getting annoyed at simple things, and if there is something else which is coming as a situation, versus another character who has this habit of accepting things faster, the story would again change. It's not about the situation, it's about how your character is experiencing that situation, how you're defining your character. So in this book, however, despite this theory, I found a combination of both concepts. All this while, I have read many books where the characters are more important. In this book also the characters are important. However, the message of the story, the way story is woven, because it's a perspective around which a story is woven, and both perspectives have been balanced really well. So when I looked at the process of it, that how it must have happened, I could go from A to Z also and Z to A also. What I mean by that is, what the book could have been written by thinking just that, I want to write a book on differences of opinion, and I want to storyify that. That's coming from A to Z. Or maybe already having a story, or already having that experience. Suppose maybe author in real is having a conflict with their mother, and then just while thinking about that, this whole concept, the whole story came up, and especially the metaphor of uncut grass. Into the uncut grass, when they went into the uncut grass, all these revelations happened. So it may be the other way around also. So that way I could see the play around with the story part as well. Okay. And the same things we can do not just in books, but also the storytelling part, which we are doing. We can decide beforehand that I want my reader to feel this, and then weave a story that, and the other way around also. You weave a story and see which of the emotion you're tapping into, and then tweak your story accordingly. A few learnings and unlearnings which I could discover was, the black ones are learnings and the red ones are something which I unlearned, which I thought was there but hasn't been. So metaphoric way was something which I knew, but the way it has been done in this story is very beautiful. Just naming the whole book on metaphor, Into the Uncut Grass is a metaphor, a place where they go, and it's a place to reflect. Actually, if we see it in literal terms, maybe it can be the journaling also. In normal terms, the author might have been journaling, and that has been named as Into the Uncut Grass. It could have been just like Alice in the Wonderland. There's no place like Wonderland. That's a metaphor where everything is unpredictable. There are different sort of sizes of gates. There are different types of animals. That's all is metaphoric. Similarly, the whole book has been metaphoric, which was very, I knew that books can be metaphoric. There have been many books like that. But this came up as a very strong and recent learning for me. Next is, how many of you think what should be the ideal book size? In terms of pages. Size as in terms of how many pages should be there for fiction, non-fiction, anything. Or if you would like to write a book, how many pages of that book you would like to write? Would it be a 300 pager, or you haven't thought about it? So then you can reply in generic sense that, what do you think should be ideal? What makes it a book? Obviously, you won't answer that a 10 pager is a book. Shweta says 200 plus makes sense to me. Okay. Tapaswini says 150 to 180 max impactful pages. Okay. Shankar sir says 200. Okay. Anusha says 200 to 250. Interesting. Okay, how many of you have read Animal Farm by George Orwell? Or let me see in my bookshelf. Yeah. So Anusha has read. Anusha, what's the number of pages? Just a guess. Take a guess. It's lesser than that. It's lesser than that. It's I don't think so. It's even 100. It's not even 100. And still the book is very impactful. So that was till previous, I would say half 2024. I was still under the belief that, you know, a book has to be at least 120 pages or 100 plus pages minimum. But two things happened. One was a very interesting game changer was that when my mentor Pawan sir told me that let's do a co-training together on book writing and all that. And that time, the very first thing when they offered the group book writing to me, and I said, how would I make them write a book in 2 months? So he was like that, what do you think? How many pages you have to make them write? So I told him like 200 pages, 300 pages ka book. How can I make them write such a long book in such short time? He said, where is it written that, you know, a book has to be that long? And that actually made me quiet. That yes, and then I connected the dots that, you know, there has been Animal Farm and I've read the book, The Old Man and the Sea. It's a very tiny, weeny book and very impactful. So the size of your book, the size of your content, the size of your written piece, the length of your written piece, the number of pages, all that is bullshit. What really matters is how you're presenting that. This, and when you read, that has been very strongly done in this. This may look like a very thick book with this hardcover and very classy part of that. But if you totally see the writings, it's very less. It's very less. In fact, there have been pages like this where only this much of text is there, if the screen is visible. However, I bet you cannot deny the kind of impact it will leave on your mind. Who moved my cheese? Yes, Tapaswini. So you all have read it. You all have read such books. We all have read such books where the books were just this tiny. They stayed with us. And we were still impacted regardless of the size, regardless of the number of pages. And when that realization dawned upon me, the whole book writing journey after that, when I did with Pawan sir, became so easy. We have even done a workshop where people wrote a tiny book. I would not say a very huge book, tiny book of 20-25 pages, but very impactful one in one day. So when I broke that belief, that when that was smashed, I could move ahead with any timeline. I could make them write in one day also. And we have done the 2 months thing also. This time I did just with 3 sessions also. So I was challenged with the timelines, and I actually loved that part. Okay, now I have to structure it this way that, you know, such short timeline, such long timeline. And that actually stirred up my creativity. Plus, if I look at that side, it's more about looking from an author's perspective, a writer's perspective. The length never matters. It's the weight of your idea which really matters. And such books will always impact, regardless of the size. Next thing which I used to think, that is why it is just a learning for me. I used to think that it's very easy for me to, you know, fictionalize anything. Maybe that comes from the place that, you know, my dad was a wonderful storyteller. I have been that child who was showered with bedtime stories till maybe I was 10, 12 years. And after that also, I remember I used to tell him kahani sunao na. So, because of that, stories were already there in my mind. And as and when I started exploring nonfiction, I could connect the dots very easily. So that has been a learning. But yes, doing it in such a beautiful way with a metaphor, all that came together was something, a place to wonder for me. Next is, it's a pictorial book. So another blockage which I maybe still I do have, because I haven't brought out a book which is pictorial yet. So I would not say. So let me bring out that and let me see how my inner, resistance plays around that. However, with my clients, many are doing that. Recently, another client has published her book, 7 Shades of Healing by Algira, and she has included a lot of pictures there. When first time somebody said that to me, I was like, pictures in an adult book? But yes, they do wonders. So it actually makes it more captivating. So trends are changing, include more pictures, because you'll be serving more to the visual readers. People prefer to see rather than read these days, and we can blame it all on social media without any guilt. Okay, another question for you before we move forward is, how many of you think you don't have a good vocabulary? Or maybe, what does a good vocabulary mean to you? Picture speaks louder than words. Yes, Tapaswini. Okay, now Vinu is smiling, but I don't know what she's smiling for. Shweta, I used to think before starting writing book with you, Heena. Okay. I don't think I have a good vocabulary. Okay. How about others? And what is good vocabulary for you? Anusha, follow-up question for you is like, how do you define that? Rest all are silent because they have somewhere worked with me. Yeah, Shweta, please unmute and say.
Yeah. So, Hina, if you remember when I started to learn the writing book with you, I used to always feel confused that, I don't know how to put this. But I guess the more clarity, I still remember the second session we did, like you mentioned that the more clarity you have, Shweta, in what you want to convey, I think the vocabulary, the words naturally keep coming to us. So I think this is what I've realized. I think the message that we want to give through the book or even through single chapters, I think that gives a clear sense of, and then words don't matter. It's just about when people read that para or that story, I think the emotion is triggered. So I'm just thinking, how more I can compose, but I hope I could just make myself clear.
Yeah, indeed. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, Vinu, you wanted to say something?
Even I feel the same thing. I don't have good vocabulary.
Acha, okay.
Especially after meeting you.
Yeah, and now I understood why you were laughing, because you have been working with me. That is why. Okay. Okay, good vocabulary is using right words which feels satisfactory. I think more I should use what native speakers use. So then, Anusha, okay, so let me give one example to you guys. Okay. Generally, I'm still not saying all of you think that way. Generally, when I ask people what is good vocabulary, they say that, we want hi-fi words, we want ornamental words, we want metaphoric words, we want. And then I ask them a question, because I have been there. I have written all the ornamental words. I have gone to the thesaurus and found the word and then replaced that, uh, uh, cranky or, irritating word with cantankerous. And then when I sent it to my friends, they were like, rather than reading your post, we went to the dictionary. So where do you want to lead us? To your post or to the dictionary? And I was like, okay. So when you think that, I want to use heavy words, I want to use hi-fi words, ornamental words, just ask yourself this question: do you want them to read your book or you want them to read dictionary? Because they are also normal readers. When we are not associating with a word like cantankerous, how can you expect that your reader will be, always into that dictionary and will be such a geek and nerd? Your reader will be just like a reflection of yours, right? Those who will connect with your writing voice will read your book. And those who will connect with your writing voice will be using the words like you. So first point was that. And as Anusha mentioned rightly, that was the point which I wanted to use. It's not about the heavy words. It's about using the right words. So if you're saying that using the right words is good vocabulary, your definition is absolutely right, on point, Anusha. And yeah, so if you say that I don't have a good vocabulary because I don't know which word is right to use there, then there are solutions for that. But if you think that, I want to use that Shakespearean language, I want to use that literature, that person got award and I want to use that language, you're not using that language, you're copying their style. That's their style to use that word. They have a different audience. Do you have the same audience? So first thing is that it's not about having heavy words, it's about having right words. For example, when you say that, there's a scene which you are describing about a library. There you are saying that, my friend said to me, or my friend shouted at me. Now, shouted would not be a right word there, or maybe said to me also would not be a right word. There, the right word would be whisper. And the moment the whisper comes, even when you're not mentioning the word library, the reader decodes it. Okay, they're at some place where whispering is happening. It may be a classroom, it may be library. So without even mentioning, the word whisper itself does the magic to the reader. They transports them to that part. Okay, whispering is happening means some either secret is conveyed or a place is like that. And that is how with right words, the curiosity is always built. Like Shashi Tharoor. So yeah, so Shashi Tharoor, I would not say he is wrong. He has his own style. But do you want to be Shashi Tharoor? There's only one Shashi Tharoor is enough, na? Why do you want many Shashi
No,
Tharoors?
no. I'm not saying that I want to be Shashi Tharoor. I want to be like,
You want to be like Vinu only, na? So we will be like ourselves, right? So
yeah.
you will be yourself only when you are having your own words. And if you are having a simple, fluent sentence, if you can talk in that, that's your style. Hemingway app specifically picks the ornamental words and says it doesn't resonate with a lot of people. Indeed. And I don't use any of these. In fact, ChatGPT also, sometimes I go and check that whether, and I give it special instructions, even if I want to refine that. First of all, I don't copy paste from ChatGPT. Sometimes I feel like maybe, this piece needs to be refined or maybe grammatically checked. So then I go, but I am very specific about my prompts. I don't give it just like, refine this. Never. I give it a proper prompt that I want an output where the words are simple, normal, which a particular category, suppose if I'm writing for coaches or writing for writers, which beginning new writers can understand, and maybe one or two metaphors would do, and few sensory words would do. So if I refine, if at all, generally I don't do, but if at all, if I'm doing something like that, my prompts have a specific outcome with that. And then the outcomes which comes is not very robotic. So again, not driving you to the chat GPT, just driving you to the fact that Anusha has defined it right, actually. The right words, which satisfactory means, the simple definition for me, right words, is that if that word is able to make you imagine something, make you think, okay, this must be happening. Okay, this must be happening. Said versus urged. She urged for this thing. So there's an insistence over there. Said versus revealed. You are still talking. When you're revealing, you're still talking. You're saying you're still talking. But when you said reveal, it itself means that line itself says there was some secret which has been revealed. So it is definitely about using the right words. And Anusha, thank you for that clarification itself, because generally that's not there. And this book again is a stamp on that, that it has the right vocabulary. Some words may not resonate with you because that's not your style. Doesn't mean they are heavy words. They are right words according to that author. And the trick to do that is that whichever word you feel like, okay, I did not know that word. Generally, what I used to do when I come across with such words, and sometimes it used to play on my mind that, oh, I don't know this word. I should immediately learn the meaning and maybe use karungi. So pehle I used to use when that emotional slap came on me that, are you driving your reader to the dictionary? After that, what I do is whenever such word comes, I rewrite that in my language, in my own words. Can I rewrite, still rewrite with impact? And there the impact comes. A simple part of that is where somewhere I read that, writing a book changes your life. Now and there was a very it was beautifully ornamented, which I definitely don't remember because I did not mug up the word. And I rewrote that, and that became the mantra of Writernaama. That became the mantra of Writernaama. And the sentence something came out something like that, that you don't write a book, the book writes you. It's a very simple, it's my language. Yeah, felt, said versus whisper. Yeah, Anusha. Okay, so again, that also matters not just in writing books, but all these things I could connect with the content part also. All these things I could connect with a simple, this is what I do when it has got embedded in my identity. This is how the game changes. Say, for example, since I know Vinu very personally also, she's into meditation and all that. One of her identities definitely being spiritual, or I would say, I don't know the proper word for that, but into spirituality or something where she relates to it very much. Now, a person who is a hardcore practitioner of spirituality, whatever they do, it will reflect. Talking about the book writing also, connecting there, also doing meditations and then doing writing, playing on that intuition, choosing things with that meditation, that will all reflect in everywhere. Maybe in making food, in eating food, in talking to people, in understanding people, in developing courage. Everything will stem from spirituality because that's on her identity. And same works with me when it comes to being a writer, because that's so embedded in me that automatically I don't write. I write at impulse, but now it has become so automatic that even though I'm writing at impulse, many things come impactfully because that belief has first, that identity came consciously, then the belief became unconscious, which I'm not aware of now. But now the actions are very unconsciously coming. It's so deeply embedded. And that happens even when I do a WhatsApp message also. Okay, so these were the 5 points which I could learn, unlearn, and maybe it have helped you. They have helped you also. Now the framework here. How do you want to write a book like this where you have a non-fiction idea? You want to convert that into a fictionalized way. Maybe a metaphoric way, that is your choice. Maybe adult characters, not the childish characters, maybe completely through animals. One of my clients who has been part of TTT, also Train the Trainer, and her name is Abida. She's a wonderful storyteller, and she had written a book by the title of What Do You Do When Life Calls You? And every story there is the conversation between animals, but there's a metaphor hiding behind that, and you will learn a wisdom. You will carry a wisdom with you with every story. So this is how she has, woven around that. So if you want to write, just give me a thumbs up, then I'll give you the framework. Thumbs up or maybe a yes in the chat box. Okay, I got Shweta's thumbs up, Charmila's thumbs up. Wonderful. Awesome. Okay, so we'll do a tiny exercise here. Before doing the exercise, since you all have given up a thumbs up, so it's not just for the sake of thumbs up, just because it is coming from a writer's identity now. So action taking is at your side. I'm not saying that come into my book coaching and write a book. That is your call totally. I'm just saying that start writing it. How it would come up, till the time you don't do it, you would not know how it would come up and how it can be improvised. So that action, even if it is a 25 pager, 30 pager, 40 pager, 50 pager, absolutely fine. No guilt about that. Because when we start thinking of these roadblocks, then the journey slows down, dies in the middle. That belief somewhere gets buried inside all this heap of all the roadblocks which we create. Okay, so the framework is this MSCMP, and the first one is message. So take your notebooks, and since we are doing the work on non-fiction, write about one single idea, maybe in a line or max to max 2 lines, which you want to give to the world. Say, for example, I want to give the idea to the world. When I was writing my 4th book, I wanted to give the idea to the world that creativity has a structure. all those people who think that, writing a book is just a creative thing, there is a structure behind that, because I could trace back from Z to A and could find many frameworks. So that was my core message. Although my book is not fictionalized, but that was the core message behind my fourth book. So what is that one message which you want to give to the world? It can be an opinion from your side, and it can be, you may think that, the other person may not agree. That's absolutely fine. You don't need to worry about whether other person agrees or not. Just think that what is that one idea? It may stem from your experience, may have changed over a period of time. It may be on any field, not just on writing, on life coaching, anything. One idea, one thing you want to say to the world. Suppose if somebody asks you that, one thing before not leaving the world, I would say, one thing where maybe you're vanishing to the other planet for some time. Or if you're given a chance to stand on a TED platform, what is that one single line you want to say to the world? One single message. Type in the chat box. It may sound crazy, don't worry. Everything starts from crazy only. Framework has to be applied also. Note it down. You want to share, Shweta?
I think, yes, I would love to share. So, something that just immediately came to my mind is that I would like to, I think you made it so easy by saying it could be just a 50-page story. So, I would like to write something which says that everything is possible. So, in a way, I just also want to say that nothing is impossible. That this is a message I would love to give through that story.
Wow, wonderful, beautiful.
It's like anything that whatever you decide, you can do it. So, yeah.
Okay, very beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Some more answers are there. Charmila says, creativity can be nurtured to grow. Okay, interesting idea. Tapaswini says how healing can help you live a happy and fulfilling life. Very interesting and powerful idea. Shankar sir says live a life of freedom and choice. Interesting. Samreen says stop chasing, stop chasing, comma. Okay, start intentionally doing. Okay, very interesting. Heena says teaching is a two-way communication in the times of AI and ChatGPT. Wow, very interesting. Now, next task is, okay, yeah. So next task is whatever message you have written, just we have to make a mind map. So write it in the center. Like stop chasing, start doing intentionally in the center, and make a mind map. Now, what would we think about? One way to do that is just randomly go around. When let's take example of creativity can be nurtured to grow. So suppose creativity is the center point, and then drawing branches out of that. So what is visually coming to my mind? Maybe creativity. What is creativity for me? Because the definition always differs for everybody. So first, maybe I would like to tap into that. Another would be because see, why we are doing that is the idea is there, but what are the parts of idea which would be the part of conversation? So creativity, one part is what is creativity? Is creativity limited to art only? One point. So treat it like a debate. What all questions are coming to your mind? What all beliefs are coming to your mind? And make a mind map. If not mind map, you're not good at mind map, you don't want to do the mind map, just list down all the things. Any thoughts, beliefs, questions which are popping to your mind. So we'll take 5 minutes for that. And you can share in the chat box, you unmute and talk about it, plus write, because then it is forming into something. Any confusions also you may ask. And I would be happy to see after a month or even 2 months, that's fine. I would say 1 month only, because there's a reason behind saying that as well. That somebody says that I could write a 25-30 page book also, that is absolutely fine. With or without my coaching, doesn't matter. Because that's the success I would consider as a part of this passion-driven project, where I read some book and it drives me so much that I would love to dissect it this way every month. So any thoughts, beliefs which are coming to your mind, questions which you want to ask on, if you were a reader of a book named Creativity, what would you ask? What would you like to know? What do you already believe? What are your maybe lessons or mistakes on that? Anything which is coming to related to that topic, because that will become the part of your conversation when you're having your characters and all. What will you talk? Till the time you don't have these subtopics in that, what will you talk? Yeah, so Sparina, you have decided your topic would be, the idea to spread would be teaching is a two-way communication in the times of AI and chat GPT. So this is the center of your, this is the center message. Now, if you are a reader of such book, where the book is talking about teaching is a two-way communication, ask yourself, if I'm a reader of this book, what would I like to know from this book? What are my questions which will be answered in this book? Write down all those questions. Or if you already believe about something about this, that teaching has changed shape after this. Wow, Shweta has posted the part
Yes,
one.
Heena, this is when you said about it, then these were the things that just came up. And if you could check, yeah.
Yeah. So nothing is impossible. It comes from self-talk. So this looks like how you can make it possible. So this is the how part of it, right, Shweta?
Yeah, these were the thoughts when I thought about it. When you said about what we could talk about, or that's what, yeah.
Yeah. Any so think about, this is wonderful. Just think about a person who doesn't believe in this concept, nothing is impossible. What
Yeah,
questions they would be having, or what contradictory belief they would be having. Ek list uska bhi rakho, because
sure.
see, if there would be a conversation, there would be an opposition point also.
Yeah, yeah.
What now, tap into that head. You are a person now who doesn't believe this. You are a rebel of this idea. Do a debate with that and bring out the pointers. Maybe it can be a point that, how can you say that? Like, how can you prove that? Or maybe uh, if you're saying that and look at my result or something like that, as a conversation, it may come, as a belief, it may come, as a question, it may come. Anyone else want to share? To dig deeper, I can give you one more idea. One I gave that, think from both perspectives, in favor for the idea and against the idea, and think about questions and perspective which are coming up. Because when you'll be having two characters, there will be contradictory conversation. And whatever I'm talking about, if you read the book, you'll get the clearer picture about the thing which I'm talking about also. Generally, also, if you have read The Courage to be Disliked, it is also based on the same thing. The author wanted to convey a particular philosophy, but the whole thing has been concocted in a form of a dialogue. Dialogues are going on one after the other. One is having this thought, other is having contradictory thought. Then one is explaining, then other is again contradicting. And the whole concept is described that way. Another way to do that is to think about 4 parts of your topic. Suppose Shweta's topic is everything is possible. So whatever she has made in the mind map right now is the how part of it, how to address that. If you address your social barriers, if you address, or maybe how it forms. Social barriers comes and they make your thinking limited. It may be that way also. But again, it is addressing the how part, how it is formed and how it can be solved. So that is how part. Another thing to think about, why it is important, how it can change your life. So why, how, what is it? As when I was talking about my idea, that like suppose creativity, what is creativity? So in her point, maybe this is not valid, but think of it in all the directions, how, what, why. That may be another sort of thing, or maybe list of questions which may come up. Make a list of why sort of questions, make a list of what sort of questions, make a list of how sort of questions. The more you come up with questions, the more interesting the conversations would be, because you are tapping into the contradictory head now, rebel head. and asking these questions. Charmila says beliefs and misconceptions, routines and rituals, techniques, music and art. Interesting. Interesting. So now when you said beliefs, what beliefs? Chunk it down. Just telling the belief, when you are having, now next task, when you will be concocting a protagonist, what will be the conversation about? What belief we will be talking about? What, suppose the belief is that, one of the belief, I had a beautiful conversations with many of you here and in Writernaama book club also, that when I started with this concept that creativity has a structure, many of them personally chatted with me and said, "Ki, how is that possible?" And I said, "You read my book and then come to me agar aur bhi kuch question hai to." So, and then they came with their questions, and that also became content for my social media pieces as well. Mental state of protagonist, that is in what reference?
So, Heena, as you mentioned that, what is the protagonist thinking? Because, and why this, when I mentioned that nothing is impossible. So I thought that what could be the state of mind of protagonist, the story, and, if the character thinking that. So I think these were some of the beliefs that when I was thinking about that protagonist. So, yeah.
Okay, that's it. I give up. Nothing works with me. Yeah, very interesting. Continuously falling at all. Now, Shweta, now you have reached here. Now, if I tell you कि यहाँ से you have to chalk out the incidents where some character is saying, "That's it, I give up," and create a context around it. What can be the story? And you can very well come up with any kind of story.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Because you have chalked out the beliefs or maybe the narratives from that character.
Yeah.
The character would be saying this. Now, why they would be saying this? What is their life experience that you can properly chalk out? Because it is character's experience. This is how, if the character is experiencing, the story can differ different ways. You may think about, okay, it might be a very tiny incident from my side, ki, just because today I could not pass my exam, I give up.
Yeah.
My benchmark. For the benchmark might be something different. It may be very small. It might, you may think that it's a very small, for me, it is very big. So that's totally your fault. But once you chop out these, then only you can chop out some incidents.
Yeah. And then I think any particular thinking, if that character or protagonist is having, it has to be related to the past, because I think that's the space we derive experiences from.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Heena.
Most welcome. Samreen says intention, slowing down. Samreen's idea was actually intentional start. Okay. Intention, slowing down, circumstances, courage, will. So again, that is, I guess, is the how part of it, how it happens and how it doesn't happen, right, Samreen? So the same thing I said, yeah. Okay. Same thing which I said to Shweta, that now you don't believe in the intentional start. Now you're not that person. What are your beliefs right now? Why you don't believe in that? What has happened with you? What are your beliefs which are blocking you to believe this concept of yours? So now you're not Samreen, you're somebody else who doesn't believe in the concept that Samreen is saying. How would you contradict that? What all things you would be telling, what all would be your beliefs? Make a list of that. Just like Shweta has posted one example, you can take a reference of that, that some things, these kind of lines would come up in a character's talk or maybe in the beliefs. Okay, Tapaswini. Thank you so much. Okay, so any questions before we move forward? Okay, if not, we will, I will address to it later also, if there is anything. The second part comes story. MS, so story. Now, here you have a choice. Either you make a story first or you make a character first. That is absolutely your choice. As I said, ke pehle anda aaya ya pehle murgi, that is not important. What you feel comfortable with is important. So now you have a character who thinks like this. But what is their story? Where have they come from? What are they doing? What is their age? What is their gender? What do they do? What is their life narrative about? Which identities they associate with more? Answer all these questions. Suppose you're interested, say for example, let's take a very weird example where when you decide to marry somebody, you want to know as many details as you want, right? How do they think? How do they react on a certain, clumsy situation? So ask yourself these questions and get out the details. What is their trigger point? Like in this story, the boy's trigger point was whenever his mother was saying something, he wanted to contradict that. That was his trigger point. So what is your character's trigger point? And when you concoct or when you chalk out your character this way, the story will automatically come out that, okay, there's a girl, there's a boy, there's a man, there's a woman who is this age, who lives there, who has a family or not have a family, who has this profession or who is self-employed, whatever. And her trigger point is this, or his trigger point is that, their age is that, and these are their beliefs. So one character would be who would be believing in this, and another character would be who would not be believing in that, the idea which you have. So two characters. This is a longer task. However, a few things you can write down right now and can share while unmuting or maybe typing in the chat box just to get a better idea. Or if you have any questions regarding this character or story, you can ask that also before we move forward to the next point. If we are done with these 3 points now, so your book is short to come up, because these 3 points are major, and then the rest is we're chalking out the conversation accordingly. Any pointers you want to share, or you want to ask anything? Delve deeper as much as you can to know the character. To write about their conversation, you have to get into their head. What these two contradictory people are, or animals, anything, aliens also. That is absolutely fine. You play around with your characters. What do you want to make them? One can be tree also, and one can be a snail also. Anything, whatever you connect with. So we'll take 5 minutes for that, and then we'll move forward. Any sharings, you're most welcome. Unmute and talk about it. Any sharings from anyone? Even if it is, I personally think, because when I don't share, it's just one thing that either I haven't done that, which I know you all are doing, or I'm hesitating that this is something weird. So if that is the case, then please do share, because that's where you will break that pattern. Characters can be a strict teacher who is about to retire, and the other one is a mischievous student who wants to study for learning and not for the grades as society wants them to. Wow, very interesting. Farina, I'm already hooked to the story. So now dig deeper into each of the character. What is the strict teacher like, or what is she strict about? Is she strict about studies, or she's strict about, life should be all about rules, or is she that kind of character, life should be only the studies should be taken or should be addressed very strictly? Or how strict she is? Like what does strict mean for you when you are creating your character? Strict means is she has a lot of rules and judges people, or strict means, she judges people to the extent that she, kicks them out of the class and takes effort to, get them out of the school also. So there are weirdo people like that also. So how weird is your character, or maybe how crazy is your character, or how passionate is your character? Anything, just to give you some ideas. Disciplines and rules. So to what extent? And what if that is broken? What are the stakes? So we call it stakes in a literal language, or I would say the writing language. When that doesn't happen, when something which, like for discipline and rules, if her life revolves around that, when that doesn't happen, what are the stakes? What is at stake that time? how is she triggered and how she reacts in that way. That will bring up the story, right? Because the more you will think about, okay, now, and how does the boy react? How, if a boy is somebody who is wanting to study for just learning, just to enjoy the process of learning, but not the grades, how that boy would be teasing the teacher, how that boy would be challenging the teacher, what would be those incidents, maybe just apart from the mark sheet, what would really happen there? What would be the conversation between them? Maybe, boys, somebody in teacher's family only did not do well, and she's hiding that fact. So how would she face that? And maybe how boy would help her recover. So many ideas, you can play around with that. I'm just speaking out whatever is coming to my mind. And in fact, I would suggest each one of you, if right now you're not chalking out, help others to chalk out. Give them suggestions. Any sharings? Any more sharings for that? Farina, have you read lessons in chemistry? Yeah. Now, whatever, yeah, you loved it. Now it is time to dissect it from a character's point of view. So how, Elizabeth Zott, right? Yeah. So how she was, to what extent she loved chemistry, that she mixed up that also, and she was untethered by life's blows, or maybe she showed that she's untethered. So what are her deeper layers over there? What was her trigger? Her trigger was definitely whenever she was just as being a woman, how can she do that? And then uh she 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 used to get triggered for that. So what are the things over there? Anything, any other book also? This came suddenly to my mind, so I just thought about that. Any other book you can dissect the character that way? What does the character want? What does the character, maybe uh if the character needs to understand something, or maybe the character is going through a trouble, how are they dealing with that? What are they sacrificing for that? What are they not sacrificing for that? Where are they judging people? What are the conditions? It's a bit deep work. I know it takes time. Sometimes characterization is the only thing which takes a bit of time. Then the story comes out. The both the characters have to evolve through the story. Evolve in the sense they don't need to get resolved in the end, but yes, they need to evolve each other. The boy has to evolve the teacher, and the teacher has to evolve the boy. So it's kind of a tennis ball game, you can say. Somebody is throwing a situation to somebody, and other person is again throwing a situation to somebody, and how those characters are dealing with that situation, with that ball. How are they leaving the ball? Are they catching the ball? Are they falling while catching the ball? So that's just a metaphor which came to my mind, and I'm sharing that. Or if this is looking very tedious to you, another thing which came to my mind is that read either this book or any other book now, or fictional one, especially this one, because this is a short one. It's based on the concept which we are talking about. It is a non-fiction ka fiction version. So, and short, to the point, and whatever points I've said, go through the recording again and see what all characters, traits you can see in the boy and the Teddy, because they are the main two people, protagonist and antagonist. So the Teddy is actually the antagonist, but yeah, not that very prominently that in my jhagda ho gaya or there is some war going on, but there's a thought war definitely which is going on. Thought and belief war. Okay, so I guess there are no more sharings in this. We move forward. If there are, you can unmute and talk about it. Next is metaphorizing that. Now it is your choice. If it is looking very typical to you, that's fine. You may choose to escape that. You may choose to skip that. How you do that is basically, Into the Uncut Grass was about they ventured to a place which is into the uncut grass. That's a kind of metaphor, that uncut grass is there. Uncut is something maybe where everything is so raw. This is what is my understanding. The author might be looking at it at something from a different point of view. That might be just a jungle of explorations or adventure where, they find their answers. So when your characters are doing this journey of thought war or belief war between each other, you can metaphorize the place, you can metaphorize the process. Just like when I said about the tennis ball thing, that was the process which I described, that it's just like a tennis ball where the ball has to go there, then only the character will react. The dialogue or the thought or the belief or the reaction has to go there. What will be that dialogue? What will be that about? So it can be about the process. It can be about, okay, let's stick to the basic things only. It can be about either the process or it can be about the place. They venture to a place which is like that, which is, another example is Midnight Library is a metaphor. Those who have read it know that it is a story of Nora, who is a lady, and she's about to die, and in between dying and living, she reaches to a place where it's a library of, and every book is a version of her life which she hasn't been. So kind of a metaverse, different metaverse, different possibilities of her she could have been, or she would have been, or she is, but she hasn't lived that. And every time she picks up a book, she's transported into that. So suppose I go into that library and one version of mine is a model, and is a very famous model in USA. I start to look at that life, that this is that Heena. And Nora, being the character, was not satisfied with her life. And when she ventured into each version of her life, she realized that in the end, that dissatisfaction was not worth it. Because every life will have different kind of challenges. Yeah. Also, a small doubt: is the grass a metaphor or for his disobedience towards his mother, because she tells her to cut? See, this is the beauty. Charmila, thank you so much for bringing this up, because this came to my mind and it again slipped off. So you can look at it this way also, that grass can be, because in the book it has been mentioned that mother used to ask me to cut the grass, but I never used to, and that became a metaphor for the author, that into the uncut grass. But that must have some meaning. Into the uncut grass means the author is going to that disobedience, but what they discover by after going into the disobedience and after meeting that people whom he thought or she thought that would be supporting that disobedience, he found different perspective overall. So that can be a metaphor stemming from author's experiences, real life experiences, mowing a lawn. So that can be another part that also can become a metaphor. So maybe cooking can become a metaphor. Maybe if I play around with anything, that can become a metaphor. But how you would connect that metaphor to this part is the main thing. So that is why I simplified that maybe it can be a place or it can be a process. The process of exploring this may be connected with cooking. The process of exploring the mindset. Somebody is cooking some dish this way, and the character is very judgmental about that because they haven't tried the other way. But when they see someday when they see their other friend who has become very successful, but they don't cook the same way, what they are putting there, that makes them think that this is about the mindset thing. So connecting back. Till the time you read this, you will not be able to realize one thing, that how the author is bringing back the conversation to the boy's reality. Every time when Snail said that thing that, we take each other's way, he asks the question to after they come out of that snail's place and they venture further into the uncut grass, the boy again resumes his conversation with Teddy. And then there is a conversation with Teddy where Teddy again gives him an insight. So it's a to and fro. Plus the conversation is also changing between the boy and the Teddy and boy and the other animals. So I hope I have clarified Sharmila's question. And indeed a wonderful insight from Sharmila. Yeah, Shweta.
Hina, when you mentioned the story and then you have mentioned the metaphor. So what's the difference between this? Because when I first read story, I thought it's the story that we are creating and maybe the character story, as you mentioned, anda ya chicken, whatever. But what is the difference between story and metaphor?
So a story can be a simple story also where you don't mention any metaphor. Story itself can become a metaphor. You are right.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
your idea is the main thing, and then the story becomes a metaphor for that. So that's the simplest way to look at it. You know, the story itself is a metaphor where you are not telling the idea that you should do that. Instead of that, you're telling a story.
Yeah.
Right. So that is one. But metaphor inside the story is what I'm talking about, which the book is about.
So that's the message that we are giving through story. So that exactly what metaphor is. Okay.
Story, and in that story also, when you're explaining, if you can come up with a metaphor, suppose two character of yours are having this argument for, you know, everything is possible, and as I said, it can be about cooking, mowing the lawn, or maybe just they are going to the uncut grass. What is uncut grass here for you? So bringing a metaphor, maybe they're going to a place, maybe they're boarding a train which is a very weird train. Everybody has to stand up or something like that. But that's why I'm saying ki don't get into the complex metaphors. Go into the simpler ones. Cooking ho gaya, gardening. There you can relate the process really fast. That maybe, you know, two characters are doing the same thing differently. Mowing the lawn differently. One is not mowing the lawn, is mowing the lawn differently. Or maybe one prefers to mow the lawn differently and has their own reasons, and one doesn't. And then connecting it back to the point which you want to convey.
Yeah, I get it. And now that you're saying, because when I was thinking of my story, I was thinking about two characters, sitting around the ocean and talking about it. It could be, just maybe a new sailor wants to, keep sailing the ship or the boat. एक बार नहीं हो रहा है, दो बार नहीं हो रहा है, and finally it happens. So now that you're saying, this is just coming to me. Is it like making sense?
Yeah. Absolutely. Sailor thing. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Got it. Yeah.
Great. Any more questions or insights before we move forward to the last point? Yeah, exams can be a metaphor. Definitely exams can be a metaphor. Brilliant metaphor for life. Definitely. And rules also. Okay. Next is pictorial. So since it would be a shorter book for you all, include pictorials. As if you can see the background of this slide also, the pictorial is taken from the book itself. It may be not this classy because they have got it illustrated from somebody, but we always have Canva at our service. So go to Canva and include pictures. Or if you want to, if you're completely into nonfiction, I don't want to fictionalize my story and want to do some frameworks, still use frameworks, something which is pictorial that would catch, because readers are not just the ones who read word by word. They are mostly the ones who see picture first and then decide whether they want to read the text or not, or maybe read the first two lines and then they decide whether I want to go ahead or not. So pictures are the first capturing point. Definitely your words will add up to that and become the brownie points. So add few pictures over there. It would bring a lot of life to your book also. So this was a framework, MSCMT. There are further divisions, but as I said, further divisions are majorly into characters. Nothing else is there. And once you build up the character strong, the story will come up. How you can take it forward after chalking out all these things, except the pictorial, that you can take care of it later. Even if the metaphor you don't want to pick up, that is absolutely fine. But first 3 pointers, once you take care of that, after that, go to the plot points and see, chalk out a story. There's a boy. What will be my exposition? Where my story is starting? If that would have been a picture, or if I'm a reader of a book, where I want to start it, or where I would click with it the most. Would I click with the childhood, or would I click with a phase where, they're already in the problem? That is also okay. But the character has to be introduced. Okay, this is the character, this the character's habits, traits. So start from plot points. After this, chalk out the plot points and your story will be almost ready after that, because the story is chalked out in plot points. You have the message, you have the character, and now start writing the chapters. Okay, so that was about it. I wish you a lot of creative wonderlands with this first case study. If there is any question, you can ask, or we are good for the day. And thank you so much for being here and participating with equal zeal and passion, which I am coming from. And yes, that was my first time. Any inputs also or feedback is welcome.
Hi, Heena.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, so when you said about the feedback, I just wanted to say something. I just joined the session to take a break from writing book today. And I thought I'll just join in, lekin ye to gadbad ho gayi. I want to start writing a new book now.
So when you said that
But
we start, I was like, oh my God, she wanted to take a break on writing and she's going to be led into writing again.
yes, exactly. But I was just waiting, and I think just talking to you and listening to you, I just was, thoda aur creative banna tha aaj. And
Ah,
I think I just got that lighthouse from you.
right.
So I'm very, this was a beautiful session. I didn't have any idea that where this session is going to take me and everything. And also, I think one of the biggest, ye belief bhi bol sakte hai that I broke today is that a book doesn't have to be 200 pages. And I'm convinced even a 50 pages this beautiful story can bring enlightenment to everybody. So thank you. So it, and also I think every mind changing or life changing books doesn't have to be like sermoning and blogs and everything. It could also be done through stories and metaphors. So thank you for this today. Wonderful session. I'm looking forward again.
Yeah, most welcome. Thank you so much. That gave me a hope that, this can work, because that's, as I said, it was instinct driven thing.
It is beautiful, Ina. Just keep up. I think not only me, there will be so many new book writing people who really want to write. Lekin, thoda self-esteem, confidence nahi hota that can I? But I think you just made sure that we all can.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Veena. Same here. Like like I have experienced that having thoughts, but how to chunk down and do it in the reader's point of view was always like blank to me. So I could fill those gaps.
Wonderful.
Because I have written books in science, like review about whatever is there. That writing review is different because we collect so much of information and then properly sort out, pilot, and then connect the dots and give a good discussions and have discussions and give conclusion. So that it is in its own, it's a different pattern with the collected information which it is there in the hand, but this is more creative with the thoughts. So thoughts, they don't stay, they just skip away. Even you were saying in between so many times, thanks for saying I had that but it got skipped and helped to remind me. So how to hold the thoughts and put it in the folder, just made it a note and then later properly do it. So it was very helpful to me. Probably I'll try something. Thank you.
Wonderful. Most welcome, Manjulata. Most welcome. So we'll meet again next month with another book. I don't know what that book would be, as it is completely instinct driven, heart driven. So definitely there would be something, but I don't know what. So just keep your curiosity dancing. Okay, thank you so much to each one of you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ina.
Thank you. Bye-bye.